Welcome to the Deep Dive. We pull together a stack of sources, research history, and radical ideas, and extract the insights that truly rewire your understanding of the world. Today we are attempting the ultimate self-examination, a deep dive into psychology, the science that seeks to understand mental life and, well, both human and animal behavior.
And our mission here is crucial because psychology is, perhaps the most diverse and sprawling of all the sciences.
It's not just locked away in a clinic.
Not at all. Its domain overlaps heavily with neuroscience, with computer science, sociology, economics, even law. Our goal today is to skip the basic definitions and just extract the surprising experiments, the pivotal clashes, and the complex questions that have fundamentally changed how you perceive yourself and others.
That ambition is immense. But doesn't the sheer scope risk turning psychology into a kind of jack-of-all-trades science that can't quite master anything?
Well, that's the tension right at its heart. But when you look at the field's purpose, it holds together. The poet Paul Valery observed that the purpose of psychology is to give us a completely different idea of the things we know best.
I like that.
It takes our lived experience, our thoughts, our dreams, our fears, and it reveals the mechanics underneath them.
Okay, let's unpack this and start right where the questions began, long before we even called this field a science. We're talking about the deep philosophical roots, where thinkers wrestled with consciousness and that persistent, enduring mind-body problem.
Precisely. We see attempts at systematic classification stretching back, millennia. The Roman physician Galen formalized a concept of personality types built on the ancient Greek theory of humorism.
Right.
This system classified people into 4 temperaments: sanguine, choleric, phlegmatic, and melancholic, which, we still reference today.
And those were directly connected back to the fundamental building blocks of the universe. That sounds almost astrological, connecting personality to elements like fire and water.
It does, but for centuries it was the best model they had. Humorism attributed personality to 4 specific fluids, or humors, in the body.
Bodily fluids.
Exactly. And they believed these were derived from Empedocles' 4 basic elements: earth, air, fire, and water. The system was an ingenious, if flawed, physiological attempt to explain behavior based on internal body chemistry. It anticipated modern biology by almost 2 millennia.
That brings us right to the great intellectual hurdle of the early modern era, the mind-body problem. In 1649, René Descartes draws a definitive line in the sand, claiming the body and the soul were entirely separate entities.
A dualism that really defined Western thought. And Descartes wasn't afraid to get specific about the precise point of contact.
He tried to locate the soul in an actual physical spot.
Remarkably specific. He suggested the pineal gland, a single central organ, was the place where all these disparate sensory input, sights, sounds, smells, were synthesized into one single impression. He proposed this small gland was the essential link, bridging the physical body and the immaterial realm of thought.
It's fascinating how specific he was. Now fast forward into the 19th century. Researchers began chipping away at the mysterious nature of the mind, often by looking at what happens when the mind is not entirely present.
The discovery of suggestion and hypnosis was key here. It forced scientists to acknowledge mental forces beyond immediate conscious thought. Take Abbé Faria, around 1819, who studied hypnosis, or what he called lucid sleep.
Okay.
While others were relying on magnets or external forces, Faria rejected all that. He concluded that the power to fall into a trance lay entirely within the individual's own capacity for suggestion. The power was intrinsic, not external.
So if Faria showed us the hidden power of the mind in a state of lucid sleep, then William James forced us to look at the mechanics of the mind when we're wide awake. James, often called the father of psychology, had to tackle the monumental task of defining consciousness itself.
James gave us that famous, beautiful analogy that really defines our subjective inner human experience. He argued consciousness isn't a collection of static data points. It's flowing, dynamic, and continuous.
The stream of thought.
He coined the term we all know, the stream of thought or stream of consciousness.
The genius of that analogy is that it instantly recognized consciousness isn't a machine, it's an active personal process. It made all those previous static definitions of mind feel obsolete. Yet even James admitted this was incredibly hard to pin down.
Oh, he called giving an accurate account of personal consciousness the most difficult of philosophic tasks. And that difficulty led him directly to his philosophy of pragmatism. James defined true beliefs, not as objective facts necessarily, but as those that the believer finds useful.
Useful in navigating the world.
It's a mechanism for continuous cognitive testing.
So how does that pragmatic view play out when, entirely new scientific information is introduced?
Well, take the discovery of radium by Pierre and Marie Curie in 1902. Radium seemed to emit unlimited energy, which appeared to contradict the existing laws of physics. But James noted that the scientific community didn't just collapse their entire framework. They determined that the finding extended the old ideas of energy, causing only a minimum alteration in their nature. The new truth was incorporated because it was useful, without totally collapsing the intellectual structure they relied on.
It's a recognition that conscious thought is constantly testing the utility of its own beliefs. And modern science is still trying to locate this stream physically.
We see that with research today, like from Rodolfo Linus, linking consciousness to the thalamus and the cerebral cortex, and focusing on how those structures regulate synchronized electrical vibrations inside the brain.
And that is exactly where psychology had its great 20th century clash. The subjective nature of consciousness described by James was directly challenged by behaviorism, which insisted that if something couldn't be observed and measured, it simply wasn't science.
The focus shifted entirely to the external observable behavior.
That focus gave us the classic theories of learning, particularly Edward Thorndike's work on instrumental learning, or conditioning. He famously used chicks in mazes and cats figuring out how to escape puzzle boxes.
Thorndike wanted to strip learning down to its bare mechanics. His critical finding was the law of effect. Connections between a stimulus and a response that lead to satisfaction are strengthened, while those that lead to discomfort are weakened.
So for strict behaviorists, learning was just reinforcing those stimulus-response bonds.
That was it. But if Thorndike showed us the power of reinforcement, others showed the power of environment to overturn what we assume is innate. There is a fantastic counterpoint from Xingyang Kuo, who challenged the very idea of instinct.
Oh, this is a great one.
Kuo believed that calling something instinct was often just a convenient excuse when psychologists couldn't explain a behavior. His most powerful experiments involved raising kittens in cages with rats from birth.
And the cats didn't attack them.
Far from it. The cats treated them like companions. He concluded that nothing is more natural than for the cat to love the rat.
If Kuo is right, that means decades of research built on the idea of hardwired instincts was flawed. The environment dictates even our most basic survival interactions. That's a huge challenge to fixed ideas about nature.
And this environmental focus was pushed even further by Edward Tolman, who argued that animals were not just passive machines responding to external stimuli. He insisted they were creating internal representations of the world.
This is where we get the idea of cognitive maps, right? The rats building a mental, a God-given maze just by exploring.
Exactly. Tolman showed that rats exploring a maze without any reward later performed far better when a reward was introduced than rats who were new to it. This demonstrated latent learning knowledge acquisition happening without any immediate reinforcement. They were actively thinking, building an internal map.
So we have the behaviorist school providing mechanisms for learning like Thorndike, and the cognitive school insisting on internal thought like Tolman. Did these two approaches ever merge in a practical way?
They merged powerfully in therapy. Joseph Wolpe, working in the 1950s, used behaviorist principles to develop reciprocal inhibition, a fast, targeted treatment for anxiety disorders like war neurosis.
Wait, so is reciprocal inhibition just a fancy way of saying distraction? Or is he suggesting a genuine physical inability to feel two opposing emotions at once?
The latter. Wolpe's core insight was physiological. You cannot experience two contradictory, intense states of emotion at the same time. You can't feel paralyzing anxiety when you are in a state of deep physical relaxation.
So he would teach some relaxation techniques.
Deep muscle relaxation. And then he would pair that feeling with the anxiety-inducing stimuli. This actively blocked the fear response. It wasn't distraction. It was conditioning a physical state that was completely incompatible with fear.
That shift from the personal psyche to external behavior really defined mid-century psychology. Now let's widen the lens further and look at social interactions, how the environment of the group influences us.
That's where social psychology steps in, to examine exactly how group dynamics challenge our individual rationality. Solomon Asch's conformity experiments in the 1950s gave us some of the most striking evidence of this.
That's the famous line experiment, where a subject is asked to match a line length, but is surrounded by actors who all deliberately give the wrong answer.
Precisely. Ash demonstrated that people will frequently override the obvious evidence of their own senses just to conform to a group consensus.
Wow.
If the social environment dictates a behavior, the pressure to be normal is often stronger than the commitment to truth.
And that idea helps us understand how otherwise normal people can engage in destructive behavior. Elliot Aronson summed this up in what he called Aronson's first law.
Which is,
People who do crazy things are not necessarily crazy.
he used a powerful, tragic example: the aftermath of the Kent State University shootings in 1970. The National Guard shot unarmed students, creating massive psychological tension in the local community. Citizens, including local professionals, started spreading false derogatory rumors that the slain students were dirty, immoral, or that they deserved it.
Hold on. To be clear, Aronson is saying that it's easier for a community to invent horrifying lies about victims than to admit they live in a world where innocent people are killed without reason.
It's a mechanism to reduce cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable tension from holding inconsistent beliefs. To avoid the dissonance of, my authorities murdered innocent people, the mind seeks to change the facts, convincing itself that the victims must have deserved it. It restores a kind of psychological stability.
So external pressures can force our internal thoughts to align with an atrocity just to maintain equilibrium. And speaking of our internal mental structure, let's turn to memory, which we tend to trust as a perfect record.
That implicit trust is exactly what Elizabeth Loftus systematically attacked. Her work demonstrated how extraordinarily fragile and malleable memory is. She often said that what we believe with all our hearts is not necessarily the truth.
She proved this with her experiments on eyewitness testimony, which had immense legal implications.
Yes. She showed participants film clips of car accidents and found the wording of a question radically changed their recollection. For instance, speed estimates varied significantly depending on whether the question used the word smashed, collided, or bumped.
A single word.
A single word. She later showed that if she verbally suggested false information like mentioning road signs that weren't actually there, participants would often incorporate those non-existent signs into their memory.
So misinformation can literally be planted after the fact, subtly altering our core history.
Absolutely. And her controversial Lost in the Mall experiment, where she successfully implanted a false memory of participants being lost as children. Well, that really brought the point home. Her work called recovered memory into serious question in the legal world, and it directly inspired Daniel Schechter's influential book, The 7 Sins of Memory.
This deep dive has spanned centuries. We've gone from the ancient philosophical search for temperament to the incredibly modern understanding of how conditioning and social pressure can shape our reality.
We've cycled between looking at the external world behavior, environment, and the internal architecture consciousness, cognitive maps, memory. But ultimately, all of these insights are aimed at understanding the maximum potential of the individual.
Which became the central focus of humanistic psychology in the mid-20th century. That sounds like a direct response to the mechanistic views of behaviorism we were just talking about.
It was. It's the movement that gave us Abraham Maslow. Maslow proposed that once all our basic needs are met, the ultimate state of being is self-actualization, and even beyond that, self-transcendence. He argued that we each possess an individual purpose to which we are uniquely suited.
So if you're restless or unsatisfied, even if you have a comfortable life, Maslow would say you're missing this unique calling.
Precisely. Maslow insisted that if a person is not doing what they are best suited to do, it doesn't matter if all their other needs are met. They will remain perpetually restless and deeply unsatisfied. The inner map, the stream of thought, that unique potential, it must be fully realized.
So psychology, in all its complexity, challenges you to seek that authentic purpose, even when you're facing pressure to conform or dealing with the unreliability of your own memory.
It continually examines that fundamental, unique architecture you possess. And it leaves us with the ultimate challenge. Maslow famously said there's one essential question we must all answer through our actions, one guiding principle for our growth.
What's that?
What a man can be, he must be. Reflect on that and on the unique purpose you must discover for yourself.